Morning, everyone. So, last time last class we given a quick introduction on how Blue Prism works. Today onwards, we'll try to get familiar with the tool. So, yesterday we have seen how to create a business object and what is the purpose of a business object. So today we'll be focusing on what a process is, and we'll try to get familiarized with most of the actions inside a process and an object. So this is what we have seen yesterday. What I'll be doing is I'll be saving this for now and then creating a new process. Similarly, how we create a business object? To create a new process, we just right click on that process and then choose create process. So I would give the name of this process as just class 1. 018. All right. So from the look and feel of it, the process kind of looks like a business object, as you can see. I don't see any much difference. I have a start stage, I have an end stage, I have all my stages to your left. There are a couple of minority functional differences, but from a high level, the process exactly looks like a business object. The way of coding also will pretty much be the same. Okay. Bhavani, try to change your screen resolution. So mine is set into. Okay. Try changing your screen resolution. So. Now, what I would like to do is I want to do some type of logic as to let us say that I have 3 numbers. I want to find the least of it. Alright. So ideally, what would you do in any programming language? You use if-else conditions. If you still turn off the fan. How about now? Is it clear? I believe that was the fan noise that you were hearing, but this should have solved a lot of things. Is it still the same? Alright, moving on. I have 3 numbers that I want to. Yeah, tell me.
No, some question you asked?
No, some people had trouble hearing my voice. I just asked them.
Fine.
All right, moving on. So now in this scenario, what I want to do is I have three numbers that I want to find the least of. Okay, I want to find which is the lesser of the three. So ideally, what you do is you have an if-else condition in programming language. You check like first what is the lesser of two numbers. We'll compare it with the third number. So I want to follow the same logic as well. So ideally, I'm trying to perform some kind of operations on three numbers. So ideally, I have to create three variables to store those numbers. So in this scenario, I'll call them as data items. So data items are nothing but variables where you store your values before you perform anything. In a data item, you can store only one value. If you want to store multiple values, you need to create multiple data items. So I have three numbers that I want to store. So ideally, I need three data items. So just drag and drop three data items onto your workspace. So I created three variables to store my three numbers. Simple as that, three storage places. So to store that value into this variable or in this data item, double click on the data item, which will open that window, and then specify a name for the storage box first. Specify a name for that variable first. I'll call this data item as X. Next, specify what kind of value you're trying to store. Is it a text? Is it a number? Is it a password? Is it a date time? Is it a boolean? Or what kind of data you're trying to store? I'm trying to store a number. Unlike your programming languages, you do not have complex data types like int, float, decimal. So we have only one thing called as a number. In this one, you can store fraction numbers, decimals, negative numbers. Any kind of number can be stored in here itself. So I'm giving an initial value of -22. Similarly, I'm creating another data item called y. I'm storing a value of 55. And z, I'm storing a number of 2.3. So I have three numbers with me, -22, 55, and 72.3. I would like to find the lesser of these three numbers, least of these three numbers. First, let me take x and y and see which is the lesser of those two. Alright, so I'll use if condition or a decision box in this scenario. If this the account kind of looks like a flowchart as I said yesterday. So what we have is something called as a decision box to check whether a particular condition is true or not. Okay, so decision something resembles to a rhombus shaped figure. Just drag and drop that onto your workspace. Double click on the decision box to write your condition. My condition is x less than y. To your right side is a panel which contains all the data items that you have created. You have created three data items x, y, and z. The expression of the condition is x less than y. If x less than y is true, that means x is lesser. If x less than y is false, that means y is lesser. As simple as that. Alright. So now let's give it a name for this decision box. X less than y. So this condition either can go to a true path or to a false path. So this condition leads to two different paths. Alright, so let me link them up. You start, you check whether x is less than y or not. From there, if x less than y is true, then x is lesser. So I need to compare x value with z value. Because x is lesser, I need to take the lesser value out and compare it to the third number. So I'll take another decision box. So the condition I have to check here is x less than z. So if x is less than y is true, the first time when you drag and drop the link, it automatically becomes the true path. You can see yes. So if x less than y is yes, then compare x with z. If x less than y is no, then compare y with z because y is lesser in that scenario. You can see the second time I drag and drop, automatically it becomes the no path. So x less than y is yes, x less than z is also yes. Then what is the least value? X is the least value, right? So what I want to do in here is I am creating a data item called least, and the data type is text. Now I want my Blue Prism to write the alphabet of the variable that is containing the least value. The alphabet x, y, or z, whatever it is, it's a text, obviously. So I would like my Blue Prism to write the alphabet of the data item that contains the least value. Okay, so x less than y is true, x less than z is also true. Though in that particular path, if you're traversing in this path, then x value should be written into that data item. To write x text into the data item, or to assign a value into a data item by the Blue Prism, we use a stage called calculation stage. Your calculation stage is used to assign values to a data item via the Blue Prism. So if you double click on the calculation stage, I want to write x alphabet into the data item list. So expression is x, store that result in list. But now x is not a data item. If I pass x data item like this, it means I am telling it to write the value of x present in the data item into the list value. I do not want to write the value of x data item. I want to write the x alphabet instead, the letter x instead. So for that we need to pass it as a string, double quote. So this means that you are telling to write the alphabet x, the text x. So when we write this, on the x is list. Alright. So if x less than y is true, x less than z is also true, then the x is the list value. So let us go into this path. If x less than y is true, x less than z is false, then z is list in this scenario. So now I'll take another calculation box. So when in this scenario, if it is no, then z is list. Then what would I do? I'll write the z alphabet into the list data item. Third, if x less than y is true, y less than z is also true, then y is the least value. If x less than y is false and y less than z is also false, then z is the least value. So you can see all the paths have correctly taken into their own respective calculation boxes. All you have to do now is link them up to the end stage. Everything has to reach to the end stage. Alright. So now you can see if x less than y is true, x less than z is also true, then x is list. Let us execute this and see how it's performing. So when I execute this particular one, the value minus 22 is the least, so it's written x alphabet into the data item. If I change this z value to minus 72.3 and run it again, it says that is a list. If I change the y value to minus 155, you can say it says y is the least value. So it is taking its respective path depending upon the numbers that we are feeding into this particular logic. So far, do anyone has any questions? All right, moving on. So now, how many numbers I have taken the list of? 3 numbers, right? I had to find the least value of 3 numbers. So I had 3 conditions that I have to perform before I find the least. Now let us say I have 5 numbers. Now in the scenario, how many decision boxes do I need? If I see 2. So I wrote 10 decision boxes: x less than y, x less than z, x less than a less than b, b less than c. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, instead of taking this, can we take like loops in that?
You want to iterate through number of you want to iterate through the numbers and then find the least value. Yeah, that's the main step. You can iterate through the loops, but what I have is what I have.
Okay. Loops also, we are going to work on that, right, sir? Yeah.
Yes, obviously. Yeah. So I wanted to start with something simple and then move on to the most complex ones.
Oh, okay, sir.
Okay. All right. So now to find the least value of 3 different numbers, I have to use 3 decision boxes. If I had to, let us say that I have 5 numbers that I want to find, then ideally I need 5C2, that is around 10 decision boxes. If I have 7C2, 7 and 13 into 14, the number of decision boxes. So the number of if my number is high, then the number of decisions I need also should be really high, and the complexity of that logic also increases. The problem I have in here is my decision box can take only one condition. My decision box has only two outputs, either it's a true or it's a false. It can take only one condition. Now, if I have a scenario where, if I have a stage where it can take multiple conditions and gives the output, I do not have to worry about creating those many complex logics, right? So we have something called as a choice stage. So choice stage is something similar to the switch case. Like ideally, in any programming language, we have switch case. So the choice stage is something similar to that. The choice stage is where you can check multiple conditions. Okay. So what I would be doing now is I'll replace these 3 decision boxes with one choice stage. So I'm deleting these 3 for now, and I'll replace these 3 decision boxes with just one choice stage. Double click on the choice stage. Write your conditions here. I have 3 conditions because I have 3 numbers, 3C2. So a number of conditions you want to add, you can click those many. I have 3 conditions, so I'm adding 3 choices. So you need to write the name of the choice in here. You need to write an expression for it in here. Okay, the name of the choice is x is least. What is the condition for x is least? X less than y and x less than z. Similarly, you can use and or operators as well, like the way you do in a statement. For y is least, y less than x and y less than Z. Z is least. Okay, I've written conditions for all the three. Now, the moment I close this Ssi stage, you can see there are three dots that appear for each condition signifying each dot. The number of conditions you write, those mean number of dots would appear. So each dot can be linked to each stage. So start, and the first dot, the first condition I have written is X is list. So if X is list is true, then it travels from the first path, first dot. So you can see X is list. If Y is list is true, it travels from the second path. If X is list is true, then the third one. So rearrange this. Okay, so what I've done is I replaced three decision boxes with just one choice stage. Now if I reset and run this, I must have written the expression somewhere now. No, I accidentally I written flower braces here.
Third expression is double channel.
I have given a couple of flower braces accidentally instead of square braces. It's case insidious. Yeah, now all set. Yeah. So now you can see it says the Y value is least because I have specified the Y value as minus 155. Now if I take the Z value as minus 720.3, and rerun it. This Z value is the least. Similarly, if I take this as then that scenario, the X is least. Now the logic might be different, but the inputs and outputs are pretty much the same. The functionality that's happening inside is a bit different, but the requirement and the output that I'm getting is similar to the one that I have used for decision box. All I'm doing is I'm sending three numbers and then I'm getting the least value that I want. If you look at the conditions here, what I'm doing is I am writing the conditions for X is least, Y is least, and Z is least. In that scenario, first I am using X less than Y, and then I'm trying to find the lesser of two numbers, and then I am finding the least value by comparing the lesser value with the third number. Okay, the only difference is that the number of conditions I am writing is not NC2 anymore, it's just N. If I have five numbers, then I use two more conditions for A is least and B is least, all under one single stage. Okay, so that is what a choice stage is for. So the main difference between a choice stage and a decision stage is your decision stage can check only one condition. It has two outputs, either it's a true or it's a false. Whereas a choice stage, you can check multiple conditions, and the number depends upon the number of conditions you write, those many outputs you would have. Now you have written three conditions in there, so you got four different outputs. One being the three being these dots, and the fourth being the otherwise. The otherwise is when all the three conditions are true, or when all the three conditions are false, then it goes to the otherwise. So let me show you. If I make all these three numbers same, and execute it, it goes into the otherwise, because all the three conditions failed in this particular scenario. Nothing is all right. We'll move on. So, what if the number? What if the number is very high? Let's say I have around 15 numbers. Then what do you do in that scenario? I cannot create blindly 15 data items. What if I have 100 numbers? I cannot create 100 data items. Dragging and dropping 100 different data items, naming them is not a sense of doing that when the number is really high. So what do I need to do in that scenario is, I need to have a place where I can store multiple items. As of now, in a data item, I can store only one value. Alright, so I need some kind of a list or an array or a data table where I can store multiple values without getting questioned of how many numbers I have or how many values I have. For that only we have something called as a collection. A collection is a place where we can store multiple values. In the format of a table. We can store multiple values, but in the format of a table. What does a table have? Rows and columns. Right, a table has a row and a column. So similarly, this collection also has rows and columns. So think of it as a data table for people who are already familiar with programming language. If not, a table has rows and columns. Similarly, collection also has rows and columns. So I'll call this one as list of numbers for now, the collection that I want to store the numbers on. So I assume that I have a 3 column, 4 rows table where I am having multiple numbers. So I want to create 3 columns. So you create your columns in the fields, you create your rows in the initial values. So I have 3 columns, so I need to create 3 fields. So I'm creating add field 3 different times. I'll call each column as X, Y, and Z. Column X, column Y, and column Z respectively. So each one is a number. And the initial values. I need 4 rows, so I click on adding 4 rows. You can see I already have added 3 columns. That's the reason why my X, Y, and Z have been appearing, and I am already getting 3 column rows getting added. So if I add an extra column in here, you could see a new column gets added. I'm not wanted, so I'm removing it. So I'll use some random numbers. So I filled my X and Y columns. I want my Z column to be populated by the Blue Prism. I want to iterate through each row, and I want to calculate the X and Y value, X plus Y, and store that result in the Z value. For the person who is asking about loops, that is what we are planning to do in this scenario, where I would like to add X and Y numbers and then store that in the Z value. Unfortunately, your Blue Prism does not, or Blue Prism, just any RPA tool or any programming tool cannot add directly to columns and place it in the third one. It has to iterate through each row, like how we have a for each. present. Same way, we have to iterate through each row and store that x plus y value into the z cell value. Now my value is ready. I'm deleting this code for now. So to iterate through each row in a collection, we have a stage called loop stage we will be using. Loop stage will let you loop through the rows present in a collection. So loop and collection are like brothers and sisters. To use a collection, to process a collection, you need a loop. To use a loop, you need to specify which collection you want to iterate against. Okay, one cannot stay without another. So double click on the loop stage to specify which collection you want to iterate through. So ideally I have only one collection created here, but in a real time scenario when you're working a project, you create multiple collections. Okay. So from the drop down, I'll take the list of the, I get the list of the collections. I'm choosing the one that I want. Click OK. So any piece of code you're writing between these two stages will iterate those many times. So my expression is x plus y is equal to z, as simple as that. So I'm doing a calculation. I'm assigning the x plus y to the z. To assign any value to a data item, I said we need to use a calculation box. Drag and drop the calculation box and open it. To your right side again is a list of data items and collections that you have created. We just create a collection here, list of numbers. So my expression is list of numbers dot x column plus y column is equal to z column. So it reads through each row, takes that column of x, takes that column of y, that is a cell x and cell y, and adds them and stores it in the z cell for each row. So let us see how this works. Again, you do not have to link your collections or data items, it's just nothing but carriers. The actual execution is happening at the loop level or the calculation level or at the decision level or the choice level. Only those have to be linked. All your data items and collections will just be floating on the workspace. So if you execute this now, if you observe here row 1 of 4, row 2 of 4, each row is getting executed, it is iterating through each row, row 4 of 4. And finally, when I open, I go into my current values, you can see those numbers getting added. It iterates through each row and then performs the addition and then writes it. So what I wanted to cover today is the basics of a couple of actions to understand how each one works. So we have seen how a decision box works, how a calculation box works, how a collection works. So what is a create item, what is a collection, what is a loop, choice stage, the calculation stage, the decision stage. We have seen what they are. So tomorrow we'll cover a couple more things. We try to get familiar to the tool. I'm just giving some of the examples to get yourself familiarized with these actions. Okay, so in first 3 or 4 days, we'll try to get familiar with them, both business object and process. Once we are familiar with it, we go into advanced topics like exception handling, inputs and outputs, environmental variables. Once that is covered, from the start of the second week, we'll be focusing on first project. Is it fine? Do anyone has any questions? All right, guys. Yeah, tell me.
For this Blue Prism tool,
I'm sorry, your voice was breaking. Can you repeat?
this Blue Prism tool is called Process Studio or?
Oh, you want the tool installed in your machine?
What is
You
the?
need. So you need to have a Windows machine present. You just need to reach out to the Visualpath and they'll get that installed for you. Okay, just reach out to the institute. Call them up.
VMware means.
No, it's installed on your local machine itself.
Okay. Mhm.
Hi, Jayant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jayant, yeah, as you said earlier, you explained two real-time projects.
Mm-hmm.
One is, as Visualpath said, one is backing project and one other one.
Have you attended yesterday's demo?
Yes. But
So I was talking, right, one is on a Windows based and one is on web based. I don't understand how backend came into picture.
Okay. Windows based on
Web based.
particular application or a particular task?
On a particular application.
Particular application only.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Hi,
Any other
Jayant.
questions?
For the decision and the choice box, can you drag drop onto the screen?
Okay.
Both are like have the same symbol, like whereas like when I see the data item and the collection, the symbols are different. I can easily identify which is the data item and which is the collection. Whereas the decision and the choice, both have the same shape. What is the reason?
It's simple as that. Both are doing pretty much the same job, but one has only a capability of checking one condition. Your choice stage has a capability of checking multiple conditions. That's the reason why you have two present in here and we have only one box present.
Oh, it has two boxes. Okay. No, but in general, when I look at the full flow chart, it's hard to identify which is the choice and which is the decision box, right? When I name them.
So the moment you start using choice stages, right, you will get the dots present here, depending on the number of conditions. That kind of scenario is not present for a decision box. It always has a split output. Okay. If you look at an overall flow chart, if a particular box is splitting into two different lines, that's a decision box. If you see dots on the output, that's a choice stage. Okay, simple as that.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
So actually, what you are explaining, all this belongs to Windows or web?
This is a normal logic. It's not web or Windows as such. This is how we perform logical operations. Yeah. So when I get back to Object Studio, that is where I should worry about Windows or Windows or web based. When I'm in Process Studio, I should worry about the business logic, the business decisions, all that. Okay. Irrespective of what kind of application it is, the logic still remains the same for the both. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? All right, then let's catch up in tomorrow's class. We'll get to be familiar with a couple more things. Okay. We'll take our first use case tomorrow as mini one, not the one that I parted. We'll take our first use case tomorrow and then we'll start working on it. Okay, to understand a clear relationship between a process and an object. The difference is how one can be used against other, how your usability happens, all that we'll be checking tomorrow's class. All right. Have a great day.